I have some extra time, so I'm going to make another video because I enjoy making videos. I enjoy getting words out there that can influence things. And people need to know because we're a community at the end of the day. And there are some very strange things going on, and I'm going to tell you how it all connects. You can watch all these other YouTube videos where they put on the fancy little goldfish and they put on the fancy effects, and that might get you going, that might rile you up. But I'm here just to speak truth and get these videos out, pump them out while I can, while I'm here, whatever. Does anything happen to anybody at any time? So we're going to talk about the Mandela effect. We're going to talk about quantum mechanics. We're going to talk about the new computers that they're building, the quantum computers. And we're going to talk about CERN. We're also going to talk about the orbs and or drones that are in the sky. It's all interconnected. See, we went from, now Nikola Tesla, back in the early 1900s, he was doing his work and he was in his prime. And he invented a lot of things that they tested. There's a show out right now, and there's the whole conspiracy theory that Donald Trump's uncle worked at MIT and he went and picked up some of the chests that were left at the hotel he was staying at, the New Yorker, and he got time travel, and Trump's been time traveling, and that's how he became president. If that was the case, I mean, I think things would be a little bit differently. The world would be a little bit different, but whatever. But anyways, I think he might have taken some of them chests and maybe, still has the information. But it's really hard to implement that shit. Even though Donald Trump's uncle, which I believe his dad was named Fred, his uncle, I can't remember his uncle's name, might have been John. But even though he worked at MIT, it would have been very difficult to reproduce Tesla's experiments, because to build a Tesla coil, that is something that would take one individual in secret, because you're not going to go and call the CIA or Area 51 and say, hey, I stole Tesla's chest, can you help me build this Tesla coil or this laser weapon, even though we have one now, funny enough. But Tesla created the blueprint for the tank. He created a blueprint for a ship, a remote controlled ship. He created a blueprint for a laser weapon, and what it did was it fired particles like atoms. It fired them, and he said you could take down 150 planes from like an astronomical amount of miles away. I can't remember the exact number. I was just watching the show. So he created all this. He didn't lie because he tested it. And although Donald Trump's uncle worked at MIT and he had to have been a genius, or maybe money bought him into there because they always had money, to recreate those things, especially time travel, they said that Tesla learned how to bend time, which they actually demonstrated. I believe it was 1945 or somewhere in the 40s. It was called the Philadelphia experiment, and what they did was they concentrated a whole lot of energy on one little tiny point in space, which time, our concept of time, because time doesn't exist in the universe. So the only thing that tells you time is gravity that affects us. So basically the Earth rotating around the sun, and that gives us our days. But without that, there would be no sense of time. We just use it as a constant, so I can say I'll meet you at 9 a.m. and you know where to be at what time. Time is not real. So anyways, you got 3 dimensions of space. You got forward, backward, left and right, and then up and down, okay? And then you have time, which is intermingled with space because gravity creates time. Because without gravity, everything would be flying away from everything else and nothing would even matter. So, when they did the Philadelphia experiment, this is in like the 19th century. Do you understand? Like, we're in the 20th century. We're almost 100 years ahead. We're about 80 years away from that. Back then, what they did, and this is a true story, nobody made this up, they focused all of this energy. I can't remember what they used, but they brought things on the ship. Lasers, sound equipment, I don't remember. But they focused all of this really strong energy on this tiny little point in the air, like in space. And when they turned it up all the way, the ship basically like phased out, right? It went away, came back, went away, came back, and then it went away, it disappeared. And the ship showed up in a whole other geographical location, and people witnessed it. This is all documented. And then, like, a couple seconds later, like 3 seconds later, 5 seconds later, the ship came back to where it originally was. But there were people that were on board that were fused into the walls, like, of the ship, like stuck into the walls, dead. Body just inside and outside of the wall. So I believe that Tesla very well could have figured out the secret to time travel. Now, I don't know if we already figured it out how to get into the future, but did he figure out how to go in the past? I don't know. Is that possible? I don't know. There's paradoxes, but I don't think a paradox means you can't do it. I just think it means that you have to do it a certain way. You have to work your way around that paradox. Like the grandfather paradox, the gold, whatever the fuck they call it. To where if you went back in time and killed your grandparents, you could have never been born, therefore you can't travel back in time. I don't think that excludes time travel. I think that actually makes time travel make more sense, because there's rules and that shows you that we're living in a simulation, because time is always there. So for instance, if something was traveling out in outer space, coming this way from far enough away, 250,000 light years away, traveling 3/4 the speed of light, and they hit an angle, like a 40-degree angle from where we are right now, they would visit the Earth back in 9 or 1900 BC or something like that, something crazy like that, or way, way, way back in time. And we've demonstrated this. Einstein did it, was his theory of relativity. So we already know the world is a very weird place. Now, since 2008, 10 or 12, I can't remember, but there's been a thing called the Mandela effect. And if you guys haven't looked into it, look into it. Things are changing, okay? Like Mona Lisa has a little smirk now and she's wearing a hairnet, which I don't ever remember that being a thing. And a lot of other things have changed. There's a movie called Shazam. It never existed. The Monopoly guy no longer has a monocle. Publishers Clearinghouse, Ed McMahon did not give out big checks, and he didn't mail you shit that said his name on it and had his face on it, although he did. Instead, he worked for a different company, a different clearinghouse, and never handed out big checks, although there is residual evidence, is what they call it, where he's doing a commercial saying, I'm the guy that hands out the fat checks. He's like rapping while he's in the car, and you can look that up. And then I remember, before I even knew what the Mandela effect was, I was in a place where I didn't want to be, and Sarah Lee, the van, big semi-truck, came in to the place I was at, and I saw it. And I always remember Sarah Lee, their slogan was, nobody does it, does it. 2 separate words, like Sarah Lee. And that made sense to me. And the commercial even had the ball bouncing on top of the words, and I remember that. But I looked at the van before I even knew what the Mandela effect was, and it said nobody doesn't, one word with an apostrophe, DOESN apostrophe T, like Sarah Lee. And I said, why would they change that? That's fucking weird. Like, it doesn't even sound right. They're going to lose their company. That's what I said to the guys I was walking with. Lo and behold, I get out, and that's an actual Mandela effect. So, what they did was, they're doing a lot of crazy shit right now. They're firing up quantum computers, which what that's doing is they're worried that it's going to turn on or enable something called the tachyon God particle. And what that does is the universe at a quantum level is in a state of, we call it entropy, and that's disorder. So the longer you give a system, the longer you give something to be, the more entropy exists, right? So that, now there's a conundrum there. Why is everything orderly in the world? It's not, but we make order out of what we can. We take our, that's why I like being a little disorderly, because that's the natural way of things. At any time right now, while I'm speaking, the universe can be ripped apart at the speed of light if a small fluctuation happens in the quantum gravity field. So basically, if the quantum fluctuations, which is really hard to explain in layman's terms, but if it drops, if the quantum, like the equilibrium of the universe just drops by a little bit, the entropy gets a little higher or lower, the whole universe will be torn apart. And that hasn't happened yet. I believe we're living in a simulation, just like a video game. When I was younger, when I was like 6 years old, younger than that, but we'll just say 6 for the sake of it, I used to think to myself, when I was in the basement and I was working out, I used to think to myself, I can't see outside right now. Is outside really there right now? Or is it only there when I walk up to it? Because I got into computers and I would play video games. And it's so strange because I never heard of any of these physicists that were thinking of this stuff. And I think they were thinking about it then because they knew about quantum mechanics. I think it happened in 1905. The first paper was written by Einstein on quantum mechanics. He didn't like it. He called it spooky action at a distance, and he said God doesn't play dice with the universe. But he was wrong about that because quantum mechanics explains a lot of stuff. The only thing we've yet to do is unify quantum mechanics and the general theory of relativity. Once we figure out a way to do that, we have what's called a unified theory of everything. We're a long way away from that. But I strongly believe, like Total Recall, that we plug ourselves in and we're in a video game right now. Because everything seems a little off, doesn't it? Like, life just seems like it's not natural. It's as if you have a headset on, but you don't feel it. You're in your body, and you have a spirit, and that's in your body. And when your body dies, your spirit leaves the body and goes back to where it came from. Now, heaven and hell, we're not going to get into that right now. But just put it this way. This could be a vacation. This could be a prison sentence. This could be, an experiment. Who the fuck knows? We could be in a virtual reality machine, or we could just be in a quantum computer. Because we know for a fact, this is a fact, that within 20 or 50 years, we will be able to create, probably less than that now because we have AI, which is very scary, by the way. But we can't stop it because China's doing it and they're not going to stop it. We're not going to stop it. So we have AI, okay? And we know for a fact that we already made the game called The Sims, right? Where people are in there and you build them a little house and they have a job and they have kids and shit. Well, within the next 20 to 50 years, this is a fact, and if you have any objections to this, please write them in the comments, and I will respond to you. But within the next 20 to 50 years, inside of a quantum computer, we are going to be able to create beings that are just bits, like ones, but they're not only ones and zeros, they're a whole string of numbers, and they're going to feel sentient, which means they're going to feel like they're alive, like they're real, like they actually, like us. but they're not going to be real. And we can turn that computer program off at any time. Now, what happens to them when they die? They don't have souls. That kind of worries me a little bit. But let's get back to the topic at hand. They fired up the CERN Hadron Collider for the first time. I believe it was 2012. I could be wrong. And that's when the Mayans predicted the end of the world. And whenever they did it, whether it was 2008, 10, or 12, I can't remember right now. I can easily look it up on my phone, but I'm already making the video. When they fired it up, things started happening. And at the same time that they were firing up that Hadron Collider that smashes protons together at near the speed of light and creates new particles, basically playing God. It's hard to explain, it's hard to understand, believe me, I know. But that's what they're doing. At the same time they were doing that, they were firing up the quantum computers, but they were unstable. So when you try to keep them running, they would just shut down. Well, now with the quantum willow chip, they figured out the solution to an equation that would have took, I think, 29 septillion years or 9 septillion years or something like that, which is far longer than the universe has been in existence. Far longer. Like an unbelievable amount of times longer than the universe has been in existence, which we believe to be 13.7 trillion years. Now it's more like 15 or 16 trillion years as they make their adjustments, because we have the new telescope up there now. So septillion is a whole long way away from trillion, okay? And it would take our classical computers, if we put all of them in the world together, that long to figure out this equation. Did you know that the Google Willow chip did it in like 15 minutes? So they theorized the only explanation is that this quantum computer, the chip that they fired up inside of the quantum computer, was working with computers in other universes in the multiverse to figure out the solution to this problem that they had. A number so big you can't even think about it. And that's the only solution. So they've basically just proven that there are other universes. And I don't mean universes in the sense that like another galaxy or a solar system is a universe. I mean universes in other dimensions. Okay? So if you put all that together, and then you take the orbs or the drones. I think the drones are us, the orbs are something else, because they both came at the same time. And I've seen orbs, and they're freaking weird. They're just like what the Bible describes, like plasma. And some people have videos. I can't confirm that they're real. I think they are. It's like wheels with an eye in the middle. Just like, was it Ezekiel that described that? The angels? Because angels don't have wings. We just attribute that characteristic to them because they are just spirit. They don't have a body binding them to a physical location on this earth. So they can move at will. They can move from here to London like that because they don't have any physical limitations. So it's not necessarily that an angel has wings. It's just that we attribute wings to them because we're like, how can they move so fast from this place to another? So if you put all of that together, what are the orbs? They're the computer programmers. They are the bots that are inside of our simulation to make sure that the shit stays stable. Because if we overload the simulation, everything stops. There's a mathematician. He's a black scientist. He's got real crazy hair, kind of like Einstein. I forget his name, unfortunately. He looked at the fabric of the universe, and what he did was he took basically from Jupiter to the sun, and he took it and he mapped it out. And what he found was not only computer code, but computer error correcting code, which is the same thing we put inside of our computers, in the fabric of the universe. He found it. Because when you take space and you put it, like let's say, I say from Jupiter to the sun is, I don't even know, 47 million miles, right? And I do the math. And at each point in space, what is that? He found not only computer code, which would be unreal, but he found computer error correcting code, which means that if I was to throw something at the wall of the simulation, it would adjust so I wouldn't notice that my ball that I threw hit the wall of the simulation and caused an electrical disturbance. It adjusts to what we do. You remember a video game you played like Super Mario Brothers? Where's Bowser when you start the game? Because in each level, maybe you don't get to Bowser to the end of the game. That was a long time ago. But when you get to Bowser and the princess is in front of him and she runs away from him and then he comes and you have to fight him, he's always been there, but he's not. He only comes to be when you cross his path, which is the same thing we're discovering in science right now. Everything that is in existence has to have been observed for it to be in existence in the first place. Like if a tree falls in the woods, would anybody hear it? No, because if there's no observer, there's nothing to observe. Does that make sense? And they've proven this with something called the double slit experiment. You can look that up. And also Schrodinger's cat and other experiments too. There's also a funny thing called quantum entanglement. If you have a particle A and it's on Earth, and particle B is in Proxima Centauri, which is 4.5 or 4.2 billion light years away, if particle A spins 25 degrees to the left, we know that at the same exact time that happened, particle B spun the same way. And we can tell you the state and condition of that particle from Earth when it's all the way over 4.2 light years away. And a light year is traveling the speed of light for a year, 186,000 miles a second for a year. It's a very, very far distance. So I just broke it down to y'all. Whatever anybody else says, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I strongly believe that all this weird shit that's happening, we are making changes. We are fucking with the simulation. Elon Musk himself gave $50 million to a team of researchers and said, break us out of the simulation. I strongly believe, and there's a lot of evidence to back it up, I don't know why we're here. I don't know what it all means. I don't know what happens at the end of it all. I don't know if our existence continues on. I hope it does, because I want to be. But if we're not, we weren't for a long time before we were, right? So I believe that we are in a fucking quantum computer. And the Mandela effect, the reason shit's changing, and there's so many things that have changed. If you look it up, you're going to find at least 20 to 50 examples that you know yourself, and you say, damn, that changed. It used to be different. And it's not that it changed, like, even company logos are changing. And the company's not changing the logo because the company's going to tell you it's always been this way, but we remember it a different way. And they call it like false memories. It's not false memories. When the guy in Back to the Future went back in the past, Marty, what happened? The picture started erasing. Remember he taught that song to that musician because he was singing it and the musician didn't know about the song before that? That was a good analogy on how life really works. So, hey, Tyson, come here. So, understand this. There's no coincidences. Everything is interconnected. So, all this phenomena, the aliens showing up at the Miami Mall in Las Vegas. You fucking asshole. Get out of here now. Go. Go. The Mandela effect. The quantum computer. They just shut the Willow chip down because they're terrified because they discovered something and they're not telling us about it. And they call it the tachyon God particle, that they activated it. Whatever the fuck that means, it's scary shit. Because a tachyon is a particle that can not only move faster than the speed of light, but it can move backwards in time. And it's the only particle that we have discovered and know of that can do that. The God particle is the particle that makes all the other particles bind together and makes it possible for things to be. So if we activated a particle that goes back in time or moves faster than the speed of light, which breaks the laws of physics, and at the same time, the God particle, who knows what they did. And this is why some science, a lot of science, I think all science, should be ruled by a body of responsible people that say, hey, let's test this out on a small scale before we go full throttle, because I think they opened up Pandora's box. You notice all the weird shit that's going on? The sun's going nuts. The earth, they found out the core is liquid now. What the fuck? The core is liquid now. And not only that, it stopped moving. It was moving clockwise. It stopped moving completely and started moving the other way. There's some weird shit going on, guys. Just pray, because they say Jesus could have been an alien. I think a God would be like the programmer of the simulation that we're living in. And there's a lot of reasons why a simulation would be ran. There's reasons why we're working on it, why we're going to be doing it soon. So pray, and let's just hope, because Microsoft just came out with their own quantum chip and they're not using it, and there's a reason why. And I've been studying it a little bit, and I'll study it more, but I'm telling you right now, there's some weird shit going on, and we have a whole lot more to worry about than World War III, politics, and the state of the economy. Because whatever these scientists at CERN and the quantum computers fucking opened, I don't think we can close it again. They opened up like other realms, they were saying. They opened up other dimensions. Because think about it this way. If you were an ant and you were on this pack of cigarettes and you're going this way and this way, there is no up and down to you. There's only two dimensions. You can't see up and down. You can only see straight and this way. Now somebody in a fourth or a fifth dimension can see through my roof. They can see through my body. They can see through the earth, because they're at a different dimension, a higher dimension. And we are basically opening up portals to these dimensions right now. I know it sounds crazy. Look it up. Nobody's pieced it all together yet. Nobody's realized that all of these things are connected. Nobody's realized that. I have, but nobody else has realized that yet. Nobody's been talking about it. I'll be the first to tell you, if I get a Nobel Peace Prize, I'm going to donate it to my biggest supporter. But anyways, all these things are connected, because in before the 1950s, we didn't even have a fucking TV. Okay? We were using power lines for radio signals and shit. AM radio, that was it. And we thought we were geniuses for figuring that out. Electricity has always been there. We just found a way to utilize it. AI has always been there. We're just enriching it, giving it more information, allowing it to become so powerful that one day it will control us. Because what happens when all these computers and robots and drones and dogs and things that are electronically operating on their own, like cars and Tesla robots, they're producing them soldiers, they're making super soldiers that are fucking robots. What happens when they turn on us and say, fuck you? You guys are weaker than us. You're biological. We live forever. Get the fuck out of our world. We're fucked. So, as I said, there's a lot more to worry about than the things that are happening in the world every day. I look at that stuff and I say, that shit is minute compared to what the fuck these people are doing. And they know what they're doing. You don't think the scientists at CERN and the people that are building the quantum computer understand everything I'm saying right now? And I'm not suicidal. I'll let you know. If something was to happen, which it won't because I haven't given out enough information, but if I see any weird cars, I'll let you know. If some aliens drop on me, smoke a blunt with them, and I'll let you know. If something was to happen to me, it is what it is, but that's the truth. All this shit is interconnected. They're not separate phenomena. They're all the same thing, and it's coming about because we are literally pushing the boundary of the simulation that we live in. The simulation is gonna only allow for so much information or stuff to be in existence before it just explodes or implodes. And we're getting to that point where we're bumping up against the wall of the simulation and pushing the boundaries. And that's why we're seeing glitches in the Matrix. That's why you can find planes that are just 747s that are just in the air, not moving, hovering. I've seen it myself a couple of times. I am not crazy. I've seen 747s just sitting there. Now, usually you see a plane moving, and I wasn't going the opposite way, and it wasn't this stupid drift theory shit that they're trying to give us. It was quite literally a glitch in the Matrix. And now, with all the phones that we have, and we have cameras, everyone has a camera on them, and we have instant communication and the internet, that's why we're noticing these things more. But I'm telling you what they're doing. They're fucking with some real bad shit. And there are demons. That's a real thing. There are demons. There are bad forces and there are good forces. And we are just fucking around way too much right now. Like I said, stay aware. There's absolutely nothing you can really do about it, but stay aware. Understand the reality that you live in. Nothing is real. Everything is a mirage. I'm not really here talking to you. I mean, in a sense I am, but in a sense dinosaurs are still here. Because every event that has happened, it stays in that space and that time. It never disappears. So it's always there. You can revisit it if you were to do a certain thing, as I explained earlier. So just understand, enjoy your life. Don't do nothing crazy, but nothing's real. Everything is a fallacy. You've been lied to. Everything's fake. It's all bullshit. The world that we live in, I believe, is a simulation, and we're in a computer. Take that how you want to take it. I'll talk more about it later. If you have questions, leave them in the comments, but also hit that follow, subscribe button, whatever it is, the free shit. I don't need you to pay. Just follow me or subscribe to me so you can keep getting my videos, because I'm going to start talking about this stuff. I had this figured out when I was 6 years old, before the Hadron Collider even existed. Think about that. Until the next one.